Hello, in today's episode of the Maverick Mystic Arts podcast, we will be discussing spiritual materialism. So this is a term that refers to the attachment of the ego and identity to what we might call perceived attainments of or perceived reflections, proofs of concept of spiritual attainment. So these perceived proofs of concept of spiritual attainment are things that are discovered at various stages along the path. And one of the holes we fall into with this is attaching the identity to these, taking pride in those attainments, and having those particular proofs of concept actually hinder further progress. Those proofs of attainment aren't actually a one-for-one for any type of spiritual evolution. They can be, but it's certainly not a one-for-one, because you can train in a way that has no connection to the evolution of view, and you can still attain certain levels of these skills. Okay, so for example, one of these might be the skill of producing heat with the body, being able to withstand extreme cold. For example, the Wim Hof method, these types of breathing methods that produce very strong physiological changes. And these can be quite powerful and quite beneficial. They can also be quite deleterious to somebody's health in a number of ways as well. But they can be very beneficial. So here's the thing, is if we stake our identity on the proof of concept of our spiritual attainment is our ability to be warm in the cold, we will latch onto that, we will contract into that, and we will, because that is our validation of our attainment, we'll do everything we can to create that and hold on to it, even when that flies in the face of further dissolution and further evolution of view. So here's the thing, is this can apply to any proof of concept. Okay, so the reason I bring up Wim Hof is I saw a thread recently where his method was being sort of crapped on, and the reason given to this was his old personality habits, the whole cultish thing, and of course the negative health ramifications. Now, this is sort of the highest hypocrisy within that very thread itself, because what it's saying is, okay, your proofs of your proofs of your spiritual attainment are invalid, but health is valid. Health as a proof of spiritual attainment is valid. And this can be true to a certain degree, but also very much not. There are, and have been, I should say, incredibly skilled, not just skilled, incredibly developed practitioners, lamas, etc., on and on, who, die relatively young, 60s, and they have phenomenal skill. They are, producing relics upon death. They're expressing the scents that often come with those types of situations, if you are developed enough, producing rainbow body phenomena, on and on and on, and, dying young. So for people who've spent years and years and years in deep retreat, it's truly incomprehensible to someone who hasn't. So to then make the claim that health and spiritual attainment are one for one is no more true than the ability to fire breathe, is proof of spiritual attainment, or the ability to have, if you're following that breathing method, explosions of light pop off in your head, all these different things, that these are somehow proofs of spiritual attainment. The real proof seems to lie at death, and the proof, we could say, is in relation to the evolution of view, the expansiveness, all-encompassing, all-penetrating nature of the true view, not the view as understood intellectually or as intellectualized and spoken or written, but the view as a real mental, tangible mental relationship, tangible astral relationship, and vital physiological relationship to the view. And this will have incredible effects upon the sense gates, the sense consciousnesses, on and on and on and on and on. It permeates everything. So view-based teachings become highly important. Now, where we run into trouble on that front, as we mentioned, is the intellectualization of those views. Trying to think your way into a more expansive view. And you can't, because the thinking mind essentially ceases to exist in the same way from that space, right? So this is the actual evolutionary process that we go through, is essentially expanding the fractal of identity that we identify with, until that entire thing dissolves, falls into and out of itself, into this empty luminosity type of relationship. So this is really important because it will allow us to perceive where the lower identity is clinging. When something is grasping onto something, it is tighter. When something is tight, if something is being squeezed, the nature of being squeezed is there is a stretch that occurs. And so the inflation that the elated ego and identity produces is a very good indication that your identity is attaching, this lower identity is attaching to something. So in this example, we have your proofs of spiritual attainment are spiritual materialism and wrong, but my proofs of health are true spiritual attainment, indicative of true spiritual attainment, and correct. So both of these have an opinion that is it's kind of getting in the way of actual clear view, because you're staking and validating yourself, your identity, your attainment onto that. So that becomes an issue. Okay. Now, the other issue with an expanding view, an attachment to that as a proof, is that we tend to fall into a habit of no view, right? Or an indifferent view, we could say. So instead of holding an opinion, we have no opinion. And this goes to, say, in the Buddhist writings, you have craving, which is something to note. You have aversion, and you have indifference. And all three of these things are not something that are being sought, that we're trying to bring into existence. So as the view expands, it is greater than all of these things. And so they all dissolve into it, right? The greater the expanse of the relationship with emptiness, the more anything that is of emptiness immediately dissolves back into emptiness. It's as if like a thought or a feeling or whatever is, a rock, and it somehow shoots out of, a pond, somehow falls back into the pond, the pond being emptiness, and creates no ripples when it falls back in, right? Ripples when it comes out, and then when it falls back in, all ripples disappear. So that's, one type of analogy you could explore this with. Okay, so spiritual materialism, what aspects of the path do we attach to? This could be having no thoughts, the experience of no thoughts arising and falling away based on concentration practices or mental training exercises. This could be attachment to any types of energetic healing powers or influential manipulative powers through the vital astral mental planes. This could be attachment to your ability to do transmission. This is a big one. Is your proof of spiritual attainment the power, the perceived power of your ability to give empowerment and transmission, right? This becomes an issue as well, because then you are trying to facilitate the continued strength and existence of your own lower identity at the expense of the person that you're giving transmission to. So there's really no area in which this doesn't apply. If you're into yoga and sort of like more Western yoga and the twisting up of the body and all that stuff, well, can there be a relationship between that and the freedom of the mind? Yes. Is it a one-for-one? Absolutely not. There are contortionists with, hardly any development. If you're into Tai Chi, right, your ability, or, internal arts, your ability to maneuver from the inside, all of this stuff, to be immovable, on and on and on, to release, to relax, all this stuff. Once again, is it your proof of concept, right? Proof of concept that proves to you and validates your spiritual attainment? If so, it will get in the way. So probably the trickiest one to actually navigate is we might say the attachment to, the identification with release. When the lower identity identifies with the process of release, there is a thing, an identity that is releasing on bodily sensations, releasing on emotional and energetic sensations, releasing on mental and more refined energetic sensation, on and on and on, right? And this still implies a type of spiritual materialism, in that the thing that is doing the releasing is validating its existence through its ability to release everything but itself. Okay? And this is where we could say the allegiance to and as the expanding view becomes very, very important. Because all of this has to flip on its head, right? There is nothing that we do in practice that doesn't make us very, very susceptible to falling into this spiritual materialism trap. Okay? Anything that we are doing, anything that we are attached to, all of this is so easy to fall into this trap. Okay? So be aware of this when you're practicing. And as you start to notice these things arise, you can, in the beginning, right, there is this common phrase of watching the thoughts, right? And this, we get into trouble because we start watching the formation of the thoughts, right? And then we start watching the arising and the falling away of the thoughts. And then we're noticing the energy as it coagulates into a formed thought, and as it dissipates and that formed thought starts to dissolve. And this is why meditating on energy can be so valuable instead of meditating on the compartmentalized form that it takes, whether that's through the mental, astral, or physical expressions. So all very important things to consider, right? Now, here's the thing is, if you are, we could say, identifying with that progressively greater and greater expansive view that is at one with and as exists as emptiness, then the thoughts can simply not arise. The feelings can simply not arise. The physical sensations cannot arise. And when they do arise, if they do arise, it's not an issue whatsoever because it's from the place of emptiness. And once again, because nothing is attaching to it, it fades back away very, very easily. So this allows us to navigate the full scope of and the full like heights and valleys, peaks and valleys of physical, emotional, and mental interplay with ourselves, with the environment, without getting stuck on any of it, and also without attempting to destroy the arising and falling away of that, right? To destroy that samsaric dance by imposing a type of samadhi on it so that we don't experience any of that, or attaching to ideas or illusions of non-activity as emptiness. All of these things, we run the risk of falling into that delusion, that spiritual materialistic delusion. Okay, so I think that's everything for this one. I hope you found this helpful. This is an important topic to explore because it's the thing that will hold us back at every single stage of the path. Okay, so if you're interested in training, please check out the website. There is a retreat in November 2025, 7 days, 16 days, or 30 days. And of course, there are the programs on the website. And we have Hermetic Alchemy, Qi Gong, Tai Chi, and the Zen Den, which is a Q&A reference library with hundreds of videos at this point for you to look through. Any questions you have, I will get back to you there via video. So that's it. Thanks for your time. I hope you enjoyed this. Bye.